Okay, so what I want to do here is try to explain how I see the history of Bitcoin, blockchain, and data, data on the blockchain. And um, hopefully, I can show you uh, how things can be very simple. The solution that's going to work is going to be very simple. Unfortunately, very simple solutions are hard to monetize. So you're presented with very complex solutions where people are able to quickly make money. Um, but those are not the ones that are going to help us. What we need to do is get sort of to the next level. And to do that, you have to understand things in a different way. And so that's what I hope to accomplish here. And I'm just gonna kind of talk a little bit and then show you things on the screen. Okay. So when Bitcoin was first created, it and I began to look at it. It didn't have a data field. It just had sender and receiver. So you could send uh, Bitcoin from one address to another. Of course, if you were a miner, you would be rewarded with Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin started to come into the system, right? The miners were given this reward that gets cut in half uh, when the halving process happens. And eventually, there's no reward for the miners except for a fee that you pay when a transaction fee, and the transaction fee is very, very small. Okay, now with a Bitcoin transaction, you can send from either one address to many. You can send from many to one, and that's kind of how these little pieces of Bitcoin are put back together and resolved. And there's all sorts of options. So um, when it was, and this is kind of conjecture on my part, but I really think this is true. When it was initially released, the first goal was just to get this thing to work, to get it to be adopted, and so this, like I say, this very simple solution was created. Now, at some point, people began to say, "There's no memo field. There's no place to put data," and so what they did is what I've done uh, is to put fake is to create fake addresses and put the data there. You can also put the data in the transaction amount. However, when one Bitcoin costs $60,000, you can't do those that part. Those parts of the solution no longer work as well. And there's a lot of problems with that, right? But that's what people did because the only way to get to the next level of adoption was to put data, to have a memo field, to have something in the transaction to describe it. That's the only way you're going to make it through know your customer and anti-money laundering, on ramps and off ramps. And because this is a big change, digital money that is in a trustless system, so there's no gatekeeper per se, right? You can create all the addresses you want, have ownership of them yourself, and no one can take that away from you unless you accidentally give them your address or they somehow steal it off of your computer. So this was a big change. And in order to get this thing off the ground, having a data field was secondary, okay? And so what people did, now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you, as you see right here, that's a word, right? Okay, so that is called obviously unspendable because that word cannot be based on a private key. There's no way that a private, it's like the monkey typing Moby Dick, right? There's no way a private key is going to resolve to that. It's going to resolve to what people are used to seeing. And I hope, if you're watching and you are claiming to be some sort of cryptocurrency or blockchain expert, you know what a Bitcoin address actually looks like. I'm sorry if if you don't, you need to. You need to. You need to understand that. You need to actually have some Bitcoin and send it to somebody else. Have 2 or 3 wallets on your smartphone and send it to yourself. But understand basically how these things work. And it's appalling to me how many people who say they're industry experts don't even have that level of experience. It's incredible how many people in academia have never owned $5 worth of Bitcoin. And anyway, so this is a unspendable address. So what you could do is you could mix these together, right? Now this isn't Bitcoin. This is Dogecoin. So when I began looking at this, a lot of conventions were already in place, and one of them is called op return codes. When I started doing this, every single person I talked to said, "John, you're an idiot." They kind of laughed at me and they said, "Just use op return codes." The problem was that op return codes were limited in size. These artificial limits were put in place. I don't know why. I can speculate why. It doesn't really matter. And they're still in place for Bitcoin. However, other currencies have lifted them to a certain degree, and I'll show you that in a minute. But so instead of using op return codes, because what I'm after is Byzantine fault tolerance, a number of systems where you can communicate, you can have data, you can create what might be called self-sovereign identity in a number of different ways. That's how things in the real world work. Think about a credit card. Unfortunately, we've limited ourselves with technology. But it used to be that with a credit card, you could go to the gas station and they could run it. It would connect with a modem. Now it's usually, there's internet access. But if the modem didn't work, if the internet access didn't work, you had this device. You put the credit card on it. You put a receipt on it that had carbon paper. Slide it back and forth. Right. That's an alternate system. So, and that gave credit cards a better degree of fault tolerance. That's a degree of fault tolerance we've actually lost now. I've been to restaurants a number of times, and because their internet was down, I couldn't pay. You had to have cash or whatever, just because the internet was down, and just because they didn't have that physical machine they used to have. So in order to create a system that's going to work, you need simple solutions, elegant solutions, and different ones. So what I said was, if everybody else is looking at these op return codes, I'm going to look at something else. I'm going to let them figure that out, and I'm going to figure out something else. Okay, and I did that for years, and so this is part of that, right? This is the something else. Is this sort of thing? You see, it says Echoland Broadcast, right? And so in the message here, you can see instructions. Now, I never got around to actually do this, but what I'm saying is, if you check at 11:32 Greenwich Mean Time (UTC), then you might find my message there, right? That was the whole point of this experiment. There's other things like this address right here. You can understand who I am because you can see other messages in here, right? Other things, right? You can kind of jump around. I even use these numbers here, right? This is a number that I put data in different places. Again, this is all about fault tolerance. You can send this from your phone. You can send one line from your phone. You can do all sorts of things. You can integrate with IPFS. You can integrate with op return codes, right? And so that's what I did for a long time, okay? And that's what I believe the people were doing initially when Bitcoin got started. There's a lot of problems with this because the money that you send to a fake address never gets resolved. So it ends up building up in this database. And that was problematic, and there was a lot of discussions about it. So they came up with this other solution, the solution that people kept pointing out to me, the op return code solution. And but I think this is how things started, something like this. These are called obviously unspendable, and I have a little command here that, I have a command I can use to create this. It's just a Python script. That's all it is, right? And there's one of those addresses. There's one of those addresses. There's a QR code that you can snap with your phone, just like that. In Dogecoin, which I was experimenting with, as you see here, the transaction always comes out in the same order, even if you create it in a very simple way, right? But if that wasn't the case, you could do all sorts of different things to handle that in a different way. Let me stress, this is the alternative. This gives you fault tolerance. This isn't even the main system, which I think in of itself is quite elegant. The problem with the main system is the programmers, the Bitcoin programmers had the ability to take that away. Just like that. They could take it away if somebody paid them millions of dollars to do so, which I believe is what happened. Okay? And so then you basically break that so that you can build, let's say, the Lightning Network. Right? Remember the Lightning Network? Or now, Ethereum, right? All these other things wouldn't have been necessary had the op return code field, which everybody was telling me is so important, John, if it hadn't been disabled. So because the developers have that ability to disable that, it's just like the gas station losing their internet access. You have to have that thing, and I don't know the name of it. Some of you probably don't even understand what I'm talking about. But you put your credit card on it, and you get a paper copy, and it's resolved later, right? When the internet is back up. So so you have to have different options. And now, what happened was for currencies other than Bitcoin, the Bitcoin which cost $60,000, the limit was lifted, right? So the limit was lifted, which gives you this, which gives you the ability to put all these images that you see directly into the transaction. Now these images, one of these images could be a PDF that has a contract in it. It could be a movie. It can be, a lot of folks talk about NFTs right now, where you put a hash of an image into the Ethereum, and you're the owner of the hash of the image, and you sell it to somebody, and all this stuff. This puts the image directly into the transaction, right? That's what's possible if you remove the limit to the op return codes, which the developers apparently are discouraged from doing for monetary reasons, I believe, so that they can build all this other stuff and sell it to you. We live in a what I call a time of transition, and we don't have time for that stuff. We don't have time. Maybe you do. I don't. Okay, I don't. So this right here, this is Bitcoin SV. This is the one that Craig Wright advocates for. And Craig Wright has said that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. I don't know if he is. I don't care. I don't care if Craig Wright's Satoshi Nakamoto or not. This is to anybody who's actually looking and seeing this instead of going with, I don't know what your criteria for believing that Ethereum smart contracts are adding any value to the situation. Anybody that looks at this should be able to say, well, the one that you can put an image into, the one you can put a movie into, the one that everybody was telling John, you should do it this way, not the other way, is obviously the best way to go, right? You have images there. You have let's see. Here I can search for SVGs. You have SVGs, and again, this is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision that you can do this. And for some reason, whenever somebody talks about Satoshi Vision, all of the super genius Bitcoin experts out there just close their mouth. They pretend the conversation is not happening whatsoever. And that is so incredibly disingenuous. That's why people don't trust you, because you're not giving them the best information. I'm giving you the best information right here. And you just kind of get ghosted or whatever. It is creepy. Okay? So, but just let me show you. Here's the Eye of Sauron, let's say, whatever. Okay, I'm going to show you. This is coming from a different site, right? This site right here shows you. Here you go. Here's the op return code. Okay, and if you could only put that much data in, it wouldn't be very useful, right? But if you can put all of this data in right into the transaction where it's coming from here, right? That's an address that we know. Somebody can verify that with their private key that they are that person. And then, you can send money from here to here to here to 3 or 4, however many. You could send $1 million. You could send a tenth of a penny. It doesn't matter. You do pay a little bit more for this, but it's less than the gas fee for the simplest Ethereum transaction. Let me repeat that. To put this image in here, and I'm going to show you the image. There's a decode button here, right? You see the same thing. There's the Eye of Sauron on this other site. Why? Why is that there? Because this is a completely distributed system, right? And the reason, and again, let me stress that seems to be some sort of disconnect. When I talk to people who are outside of the industry and I tell them about this, I say, you can put an image in the memo field of a Bitcoin SV transaction. It's not the $60,000 Bitcoin. It's another one, a different one, like Litecoin or Dogecoin. They say, oh, that's neat. I can use that. When I tell that to people in the industry, nothing at all. And that is, that's not good. That's not good. The whole thing is gonna blow up at some point, and there's gonna be a lot of people. We've seen this before, right? We saw this with the ICO, with the pump and dump schemes. John McAfee is sitting in prison right now. He was a millionaire, or billionaire, who knows how rich he was. And then he got sucked into doing all this pump and dump stuff for ICOs, right? So the new version of that deceitful behavior is going on right now, being promoted by people that are much slicker than I am. Let's face it, I am not good at presentation whatsoever. And it needs to stop. it needs to stop, and it will stop. It's not going to stop because people are good. People are. I'm a freaking Eagle Scout, right? It's not going to stop because people are honest. It's going to stop because people are going to start to get arrested. Okay, and let's hope that when that happens, maybe, perhaps, there's a tenth of a second where people can look and see and truly assess the technology that's out there. Like I say, I spent years looking at alternatives that weren't this, right? So I'm an expert that can say, yeah, this works now. Why does it work? Because it's not disabled. Because they didn't take a baseball bat and take it out at the kneecaps, right? Yeah, it's built into the core technology. The core technology was able to do this all the time. But because people are greedy and just I think part of it is there's so much coming at you. You don't have time to truly think and assess what's going on. Okay, so let me see if maybe I've missed something. I had another window here. That's that window there. I have MP4s. There's MP4s out here, and there is stuff out here that is dangerous. There's stuff out there that we need to. I need to remove from the site. I need to block there because anybody can put this stuff in place. So this going back, right? I started out in this where I would put words into the transaction. Now, then the next piece that I did, again, and this is an alternative, so that you can have a robust system that can't be stopped, so that transaction can go through no matter what, so people can use it to buy a cigar or a beer or whatever at a gas station, right? That's the end goal. The end goal is not decentralized finance, in my opinion. The end goal is not for you to make $1 million speculating on the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum, currencies that I believe are almost completely useless. The end goal is to use this currency to be able to kind of liberate ourselves so that we can get to the next point. I mean, everything has been devastated by COVID. All of the systems that we know are messed up. Mom and pop businesses are going out of business left and right. And what I see the industry doing is looking cute and talking about stuff that doesn't matter. This is stuff that matters, right? So here, this is just yet a different version of, I have like basically 3 different versions of things, right? This is just a different version of what's possible, how to communicate. So in this case, you put, let's see if this link works. It's been a while since I've looked at this stuff. Yeah, that link doesn't work, but what I put in the transaction here was a link to IPFS, which eventually goes to YouTube, right? So this is basically embedding a YouTube video into a transaction. So, now you can look at this and you can see those words. You can actually see it says Robert Earl Keen in the little text that I write. You can put the IPFS address together yourself, and it points to something that redirects to this YouTube video, right? So that is the sort of simple thing that is possible, right? So there's lots of different possibilities. You can mix them all together, but what you don't want to do is invest millions of dollars in some decentralized finance project so that a lot of people can buy laptops have Scrum meetings, and then eventually say, sorry, it didn't work. It didn't work. This works. This stuff just works, right? Except for the the stupid link that failed. But so um, each of these is a this is the transaction here, right? Let's see. Just to prove it, I'll copy and paste. I can do a lot of this stuff as I talk. So this is Digibyte. So if you take that, if you come to the Digibyte ledger, a Digibyte block explorer, you should be able to paste it in, right? Even though that link on my page failed, it's okay because you still have all the information you need, right? So let's paste that in there. Hopefully that works. Hopefully my ability to cut and paste in this works. Here you go. Here you go. Here's what I wanted to show you a second ago. Right? You see that? It says Merry Christmas Family. And then it says IPFS. Maybe this has something to do with IPFS. It says Robert Earl Keen, right? The guy's name. And then this record and this record together, you do a very simple process on it. And it takes you to an IPFS record. It takes you to the YouTube video you just watched, right? That's it. Who sent it? This guy right here. And if you look here, again, this is externally, you see all the transactions. So there'll be all sorts of transactions here with words in them. Oh, so this one is an image. This one is an image. It's called Partially Dressed Woman, right? So there you go. This was a photograph. This was a famous photograph years ago that was censored. So things that are censored you can put into here. But you can see that these all came from this guy right here, and I can verify that that's me. And that is all that's necessary, right? Even so if Satoshi Vision loses its mind and limits the op return codes, again, the thing everybody was telling John you were supposed to research, and I finally did. Even if they limit that, you can still do all this other stuff. But you don't need to do all this other stuff if Satoshi Vision works. Or if a fork of Satoshi Vision works, right? You could make your own version. It doesn't have this limit on it. You can make private versions. You can do all sorts of stuff. But stop focusing on Ethereum. How many times do you have to get hit on the head? How many times do you have to pay $18 for a transaction before you move on, right? I'm sorry, I don't get it. It makes people not trust IT. It makes people say, don't ever tell them you even work. You come from an IT background. It makes people not trust developers. It makes me not trust developers, right? I mean, how do you look? This one is JavaScript. You can read this. You can figure it out, right? So, it's all here. It's all here. Here, okay. Here's Shatters. So this is, if you follow this talks about, in one system, it talks about the decision to lift the op return code limit, which was put in place for Satoshi Vision. For a long time, the limit was in Satoshi Vision as well. The minute they lifted it, all the people like me that were doing this other stuff, there was this other guy this is like, if you think of this as a text version of things, there was another guy who was doing a data version, Hyena, my super genius buddy Hyena, he was doing something very similar to me, and it took me years to even find this guy. He was doing the data version. Well, when they lifted the limit of Satoshi Vision, he switched over to this, and I saw it, and I said, okay, I need to focus on that. Now it's time to look at op return codes. Never did I think, Ethereum makes sense, because the token, the token adds something to the system that's out of your control. You lose your identity uh, when you begin this token process, when you begin this digital asset process. The transactions themselves can be the assets in a very simple way. And I'm working now to give you the potential to put an image or text or whatever onto this ledger from your machine. I have a computer right here that I can use. I can send whatever I want from this guy right here, from this computer that I have, and I'm working to help you guys do that. All right. So if you want to work with me, it's very simple. I do 1 week sprints, 2 week sprints. You pay in Coinbase. You pay in. Let's not pay in Ethereum. Let's not pay in Bitcoin. Hey, how about? It's a little difficult to actually get BSV for some reason. But I accept Dogecoin, I accept Digibyte, I accept Litecoin. You pay, and then that payment itself, we're actually using the system. See how easy that is? It can all be very easy. The number one thing you got to do, you have to actually try. You got to stop pretending. You got to stop pretending and actually try. I hope this makes sense. I hope this makes sense. And, guys, hit me up. I'm here. I'm here to help. I want to build out stuff. I'm honest, and I do good work. And we have to get to the point. I don't see myself as a perpetual software developer. Okay? I see myself as somebody that can develop software and then it's done. And then you use the software to do the next thing. It's the next thing that's going to get us out of this mess. And when I say this mess, I'm talking about the world outside of cryptocurrency, the world outside of wonderful decentralized finance images that you're selling to each other, the world outside of blockchain, the world that desperately needs something like this. It needs this. Okay? Thank you. Please contact me if you're serious. If you're not serious, then feel free to say bad things about me. Thanks, and have